Sometimes you just gotta find a new doctor. But how do you do it? That's our topic today. I wanted to begin today by telling you about a little bit about my love for the outdoors, and particularly if I'm outdoors in a canoe doing something that combines canoeing and camping together. And I had that opportunity in February this year. I have a friend, Peter, who I go canoeing with quite often, and we planned a what was for us, two old guys, the longest trip we'd ever done. We planned a trip of 266 kilometres along the great iconic Murray River in Australia. And we were all set to go to do this trip over about a 10-day period, and not long before we were to leave, there was two other guys that asked could they join us for the trip, and so we said sure, come along. Now we soon ran into difficulty because we found very quickly that these two other guys wanted to paddle their canoes at a speed of about 8 to 10 kilometres an hour. But Peter and I, being old guys, we just wanted to dawdle along at about 5 kilometres an hour. But it was worse than that because these other guys wanted to paddle for about 8 hours a day, and we only wanted to paddle for 4 or 5 hours a day. So it wasn't very long before we sat down and had a good talk about it and realised that we are fundamentally different. And the solution we came to was that the other two guys go on their own way. They go as fast as they like for as long as they like, and Peter and I will continue on at our pace together. And that's how we resolved it. There's a verse in Proverbs in the Bible that says, can two walk together unless they are agreed? In other words, for you to do anything with anyone, there has to be some basic agreement. It doesn't mean that you're always agreeing on every little detail, because that's never going to happen. But you at least have to be on the same page. Now, I think this is true when it comes to doctors. Your doctor and you don't have to agree on everything, and it's okay. It's okay if you disagree here or there on certain issues and advice. But if you're not even on the same page, you come to that place where you realise this is not going to work. And you realise that the only thing we can do here is to part company. Let me give you an obvious example. You might go and see your doctor and you have adopted a low carb or carnivore diet, and your doctor is still peddling that old school theory that the best nutrition, the best diet is a diet that's very high carb and very low fat. Or worse still, they're peddling that biggest scam in medical history, what they called the food pyramid. That was an atrocious piece of work at the time, back in the 70s, when that came out. Look, if your doctor has that mindset and they're not going to budge, I'm going to tell you that no matter what you do, you're never going to get anywhere with a doctor that holds that view inherently. So the only option then is to find a new doctor. You need a carnivore doctor. That sounds good, doesn't it? A carnivore doctor. You think about the term. Where are you going to find one? Where do they exist? How do you go about connecting with one? I want you to think for a moment before we talk about ideas on finding one. Think about this from a doctor's perspective. You see, a doctor who decides to stop being a drug peddler for the drug cartels, the big pharma organisations, and to take a nutritional approach where they're going to use lifestyle and medicine as a fundamental part of their treatment and care of patients. A doctor who's going to promote the carnivore diet is taking an enormous risk. I don't know whether you've ever thought about this, but for a doctor, they operate in a system that is very tightly controlled. And to rock the boat, as it were, on the fundamentals of how the medical system works, they take a huge risk. They can lose their reputation, they can lose respect of their colleagues. There's been doctors who have even lost their medical license, their certificate to be a doctor. One of the all-time greats, I think, in the carnivore movement would be Dr. Shawn Baker, who I'm sure all of you have heard of and listened to his videos on YouTube. Absolute giant, in my opinion. One of the one of the forerunners, because Sean Baker, in embracing the carnivore diet, it cost him everything he had. It cost him his reputation, his job, it cost him his medical license, it cost him hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees, fighting to clear his name, and he went on to author the book, the best-selling book, The Carnivore Diet, and he's a champion of the cause today. But look at the cost. Look at the road he had to travel. And for any doctor today that's going to stand up and say, I'm a carnivore doctor, they take an enormous risk. So don't be surprised if they're a little bit hard to find, because you're looking for a doctor who rocks the boat. So how are we going to find a boat rocking doctor? Sounds good, doesn't it? So how do we go about looking for such a doctor? I'd suggest the first place would be to look at some of the online databases, and there are a few of these around. I know there's quite a few in the United States. I'm in Australia. One good database that we have here is produced by the website Low Carb Down Under, and they have a fairly detailed database. You can put in the state and the area that you live and whether you're looking for a doctor or a nutritionist or whatever, and they will give you a list of people who operate in that area. A second idea that comes to mind is that you could simply ask for recommendations. Online these days there are many carnivore-based groups and forums and Facebook groups, etc. And it may be worthwhile just dropping a question into one of those forums or groups and asking, does anybody know a good carnivore doctor in your area? And that may be fruitful for you. Another thing you can do, this is a much simpler thing in a local area, you could simply go to the websites of the different doctors' clinics in your area, because quite often these websites will have a paragraph describing, giving a little bio of each doctor. And in that bio, you might pick up a specialty interest or an area that they like to operate in, and you might just stumble across something there. Let me show you this one. This was delightful. I saw this on a surgery website. This doctor said, I've been a GP for 20 years. The last few years, I've developed a special interest and subsequent qualification in low-carb nutrition with a nutritional network and the Australasian College of Nutrition and Environmental Medicine. I've now set up a low-carb clinic to help patients improve their health and chronic diseases with nutrition. I am a low-carb GP. Now, she hasn't mentioned the word carnivore, but I'll guarantee you, you're on a winner there. You know, you've got somebody who is at least on the same page. You've got some starting point to work with. So, you know, sometimes those little bios about each doctor can yield very fruitful information like the one I just read to you. Sometimes it could be worth just telephoning the clinic and saying, you know, I'm just ringing to see whether you have any doctors at your clinic who practice nutrition and health in their way of healthcare, and see what you're told, because sometimes there are doctors that do have a special interest, and a simple phone call might yield fruit there. So that's another possibility. You might try and do your research and check the databases and do some calling around and find that the only decent carnivore doctor seems to be about an hour away. Well, if it was me, I would drive an hour to get to the right doctor, wouldn't you? I mean, this is our health we're talking about. But, you know, it may be the case that the doctor is just too far away. It might be several hours drive and it's not possible to get there. Well, ever since COVID, you know, the idea of telehealth has become very common these days, and so you might be able to ring that clinic and talk to that doctor and see whether you can set up a telehealth appointment where you can talk to the doctor online. So there's always ways of finding what you want if you persevere enough. So I think it's worth doing, to have a look around and to look for a good doctor, because that's going to be fundamental in your carnivore diet. Now, I've just mentioned 2 or 3 suggestions, and no doubt there would be many other ways that you could think of to find such a doctor. If you've got a good suggestion of how to look for the right doctor, drop it in the comments below so that we can all read it and benefit from it. Love to hear from you, or love to hear any comments. Love reading the comments, and I I make an undertaking to read and to reply to every comment on my videos. So please do comment. If you missed my last video on talking to your doctor, I'll leave a link just up here, I think, if I pointed in the right place, and you can catch up with it there. If you're finding any value in these videos, I'd be so appreciative if you would take the time to subscribe to the channel, and that helps us out tremendously. But I do appreciate you watching. Thanks for watching today. Just a little video on looking for a doctor, and I wish you well in that quest, and I will say goodbye and thank you for watching. Bye now.